So we're here today with Neil in person, the owner of this Leopard 50, and we are very close to a final wrap at this point. We have Mike is down there in the hole installing some Raycor fuel water separators as one of the final projects. We are standing on some awesome new synthetic decking installed by All Water Customs, is that right?
Yep. The cool thing about the all-water custom solution is that you can spill red wine on this, and we are wine aficionados and known to spill.
It's going to happen. Yep.
And you can let it sit on there for a couple hours, and it'll clean up.
And yeah, it looks good too, easy on the eyes. And yeah, I stepped on one patch earlier there and mostly full sun, and it was the same temperature as the gel coat. So we're up here on deck now, and I'm finally the same height as Neil. I feel kind of...
I'll say this on the solar. So we've got 4 kilowatts of solar across the entire boat between what's on the foredeck here and on the aft cockpit. And so far, the production that we're seeing during the day has been absolutely fantastic with generating power.
Yeah, I guess at this point we can look at the inside, but you've been running AC all day, and the batteries are still at 97%.
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
we've ended up some days where today it's a bit cloudy, but we've ended up some days actually where 5 o'clock rolls around and we're still at 99%, 100%.
At the boat at 70 degrees in the Florida.
Yeah, and it's 70 degrees.
That's incredible. That's awesome. So one of the cool things about this install, and we love how it turned out, and Neil does too, thankfully, is we used this Q-rail system to mount the panels. So they are essentially floating here. These corner brackets or mounts are not actually structural. They're just to stop lines from being caught under the panels. So that's aluminum sections that we cut and then had black anodized to match the panels. But this Q-rail system has a very, very secure mounting structure, and the bases are way under the panels, so they won't be constantly exposed to the elements, but it's a really nice way of being able to set the panels up and float them, especially out over these edges toward these corners. A lot of the corner mounting bracket systems end up creating and taking up a lot more real estate on the deck, but this let us put really nice 405 watt rec solar panels here and really maximize the space without compromising. You can see I can walk around the mast really easily and still access all the functional parts of the boat. And then one final point with the Q-rail system, it allows you to suspend the panels. You can see this air gap here, and the airflow underneath the panels makes an incredible difference in terms of panel efficiency and also just heating the boat up down below. If you lay one of these panels flat on the deck or with a very small gap, the deck gets incredibly hot, incredibly fast. But right now, the differential deck temperature is I can't tell the difference. So definitely a massive increase in terms of performance as well as a beautiful aesthetic finish. The Starlink is mounted, up and running, working great, Neil?
Yeah, Starlink's fantastic. That
game changer, for sure.
We've got it dialed in,
and that is running through the PEP wave.
Yep, that runs through the PEP wave.
Yep.
Absolutely, with no issue. So you can running it through the PEP wave allows you to remove the Starlink router if you want to.
Yep. So one small upgrade we did was the life raft was originally stowed in the seat here. So you would have to flip up the seat and drag the life raft out. But it's been moved up top, if you just pan up right there, to a bracket where it's easy access and not taking up valuable storage space in the cockpit seat. There is a hydrostatic release on the lashing here, so if this were to be submerged, this life raft would automatically deploy and come floating out. So the first thing we noticed stepping in here is it is cool. It's set to 70 degrees right now, and it is awesome. Cool, feels nice and dry, and the batteries are at 96%. We are only losing 13 amps cooling this boat right now because of the solar differential. So solar coming in and loads going out, the total offset is such that it's only pulling 14 amps out of the system. And that's reflected by the fact that the bank is at 96% and no shore power whatsoever turned on here. So
it's got a 60,000 BTU chiller, which sends the refrigerants to two 30,000 BTU air handlers. And the two air handlers can supply cool air to the entire boat. We have it structured where both will feed into the saloon area, but then each one is set up to feed each of the separate hulls.
And they've separately thermostated, right? Yeah, so that it's not necessarily pushing air to both of them equally all the time. It figures out where it needs to send the cool air.
Yeah, because it's myself and my wife most of the time that we can then structure it where if we're not going to be on the port side, we've got it where we can turn off the dampers and the airflow into the port side and push it all into the saloon if we want to, and just primarily cool the starboard side. So the flexibility of how this was designed, along with the low energy consumption, makes it an incredibly unique and I think powerful solution for the average cruiser.
And that's effectively a manual deflection of the airflow, right? For someone who may not know what a damper is. So that the way the air flows through the ducts, you can physically restrict some of the paths that the air takes, so you can direct it to the zones, like Neil was saying, up in here and down in the cabin, or vice versa. You can play with it.
Yeah, we can turn off the saloon and just feed the hulls, or we can turn off the hulls, just feed the saloon, or some combination thereof.
Right, or just do one side.
Yep.
Yeah, turn off the handle completely on
one thing to maintain, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I mean,
there's one strainer and one compressor. Exactly. As opposed to a self-contained unit that has its own dedicated strainer and pump. Here we have one pump, one strainer, one system to flush out, so to speak. We have two turbos down here. One is for the 48 volt system, and the other one is for the original 12 volt house bank, so that Neil and Stacy can see exactly what's going on in each of those banks, because effectively the 48 volt bank is the workhorse bank that is supplying all the large power needs, and the 12 volt bank is still powering a lot of the existing systems on the boat that you can't convert, or it's too much trouble to convert over to, say, 48 volt. And then down here, this is the control panel for the air conditioning, but there are separate control panels down in each hull, right, Neil?
Yes.
Yes, so you can set kind of general settings here and then really dial it in down there. And then the plotter that we moved from up top is down here, and the VHF and the Vesper Cortex VHF AIS, everything's down in here, so you have a pretty functional control system from down here. You can be down below here making adjustments on the autopilot if the weather's not so nice, if you would like to be.
Yep. And if someone's wondering why do you have both the Ray Marine VHF and the Vesper Cortex, purely for redundancy. That if your Vesper goes down, you've still got a hardwired system that you can access.
So we're down here in the forward utility room, and this brand new Vitrifrigo frostless system has been installed. So this is a dual zone, so either top or bottom can be set up as a fridge or a freezer, or both as one. And yeah, really nice. And it is frost free, I would go ahead and say, looking in here. So really awesome upgrade, plenty of storage, and nice custom cabinetry by Frank. We created a new hatch system where it just pops out versus having to undo each of the Allen key hex heads. But inside here we have our water maker, and this is the main chiller unit of the Thermodynamica for the AC. But the goal here was to have an easy access hatch to then be able to get to each of these systems. So in this bilge, it's actually, I'm 6'5", and there's plenty of room. Again, super easy to access with each of the raw water intakes. And then on my left, you can see, you'll get a shot of it, but there is the whole Seawater Pro system with the filters and the reverse osmosis membranes. And again, super easy access for almost anyone to get down here and service these. Yeah, I think anyone that spent any amount of time on boats, looking at Neil, the way he's in there, and Neil is 6'5", and he can easily reach anything in there. And I can just sit down and literally sit comfortably and work, which is super awesome. And then reverse, he can just spin around for cleaning the strainers if need be. Yeah, definitely very user friendly. Cleaned the strainers yesterday, and it's so easy to do with how we've got this thing structured. So one additional upgrade that is a big hit apparently is this little access port, because otherwise to get here you got to flip up cushions to reach in from the top, but now you can reach into this cabinet at eye level. For me, Neil may have to squat a little bit, but super easy access for a nice large storage compartment. So these are the breakers that allow me to switch between the 40 volt, 48 volt, or 12 volt for the solar panels. So, and it's really slick with what the yacht riggers did, that with some 3D printing, that you can only have it set to either the 48 volt or the 12 volt. You can't, run it off the wrong system with how the breaker is set up. So incredibly slick, easy access panel, still have storage in front, but if I need to get to it, not unscrewing anything. So excellent design. We're back in this cabin, and a lot was going on here in previous episodes. and behind here is where those inverters are. So we have the 15,000 watt 220 volt inverter back here, and the two 5,000 watt 120 volt inverters, all inverting from that 48 volt bank. So massive inverting power for all the systems on this boat. So the 110 can power the water maker, the outlets where needed. The 220 volt one is powering the air conditioner, and possibly some other stuff. I'm not even sure. Is there anything else besides that?
Yeah, so it's running the induction cooktop and the AC.
Thank you. So yeah, the induction cooktop, the air conditioning, all off that big, huge 15,000 watt inverter that's completely hidden back here. So the cabinetry looks original and is effectively unchanged, but there is a powerhouse operating behind those walls.
You cannot hear it when it's in there.
You just get him saying that right there.
That's it. You can't hear it when it's running. That's sweet.
No, and with how it's structured with the headliners there, that you also, there's enough space in how it's vented that you also don't get any residual heat flowing into the cabin.
And remember before these walls were up, how this cabin, we were a little concerned that maybe the AC wasn't functioning as it should in here. But now with all the walls, I mean, it's cold in here. I mean, I kind of want to put a sweater on. It's amazing.
We keep it chilly.
Yeah. So we're up here in the galley, and that inverter cooktop we just mentioned down below, this is a 3-burner, really powerful induction cooktop with 6,000 watts, I think I remember hearing people saying. Really, really powerful. And then underneath here we have a storage drawer for the pots and pans, because originally this was the propane stove and propane oven, and now of course Frank and Stacy have the Breville cooktop up on the counter and the induction right here, and there wasn't a great solution for pots and pan storage before, right? And so,
it added a ton of room, and it's Neil and Stacy, not Frank and Stacy.
Unless there's something
unless there's something I don't know about.
Blooper alert! Blooper alert!
That's funny.
How many times have I said that? Okay, good. Okay.
Actually, we put in an outlet behind the coffee maker.
Yes.
And
it was a bit of a challenge. I mean, you had to pull out the dishwasher and kind of crawl behind this cabinetry, right, to get that wire run done. That was the main challenge there.
Yeah, we just wasn't sure. We weren't sure if there was going to be enough room to put the box in.
Right.
And it turned out there was, but again, great space to be able to, use. So we put our coffee maker back there, and
I'll point while you talk.
It's the portside air handler, but
under this,
and also under there is where we have the PepWave and the Starlink, and so we turn that into kind of a comms box that. Super easy access. That one's just lift up the cushion and you can get to either one and take a look.
The PepWave will function with the pointing antenna as a failover if you put a SIM card.
Right. Correct.
Well, a SIM card down here that can talk to, right? Okay. Yeah. And that's automatic. You can set up the PepWave, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you can set up a PepWave where you can prioritize what your comms links are.
Right.
So for instance, for us, Starlink be first, but you can also set it up with your Wi-Fi connection. If your marina has Wi-Fi, you can make that number 1, Starlink number 2, and then fail over to a mobile carrier SIM card.
Right, and so that's kind of for uninterrupted Wi-Fi service.
Correct.
Yeah, so you have your service primarily from Starlink, and it will, if that goes down, it'll automatically pick up the next network.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't have to touch anything. It just does it. It knows to do that. So here we put the starboard side.
These boats are big, we get lost.
The starboard side air handler, and again, unique latching system, just pulls down, hinges to keep it open. The dampers that we were talking about earlier, easy to move, easy to access, all right here, and thermostat. But the nice thing is easy access and
looks super clean.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
Kept the same style and with the original Leopard trim.
It's super quiet. All I feel like I can hear is a bit of the fan and airflow.
Well, and we've got it cranking right now with, but it's on its highest output for pushing air just to keep things fresh.
Yep.
And we're standing next to it, and it's incredibly quiet.
Yeah, a little bit of kind of background white noise.
Yep.
And then I know we did some cabinetry here. There was a seat position there, right, before?
Essentially it was a vanity with a stool that fit underneath, and we kept the vanity portion, but then put in 2 additional drawers beneath the vanity. Right. So basically same functionality to a degree, but more storage space for clothes and things like that.
Right.
So.
And then this as well.
And then an additional desktop drawer space here. This was just a flat storage spot, and then Frank built this cabinet that dropped in here basically and added a third drawer to this stack.
And then the other thing that we put in over here.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things behind, we actually put in the Poco lighting system, which works through Bluetooth, so you can control, we have underwater lights, and you can actually control it either through your MFD or through your phone because it's a Bluetooth application, but also easy access for servicing because it's just behind the headliner, which pulls out and I can get to it. And we've got it networked back there, so it's, again, well designed for the user to be able to service it if needed.
So looking at this battery percentage here, if there had been a few days, probably 2 or 3 days of cloudy conditions, and this bank had been run down to say 15–20%, and Neil and Stacy wanted to charge things back up, normally you'd be restricted to firing up a diesel generator and charging at the charging capacity of your inverter chargers on board. On this vessel, we have 2 130 amp high output alternators that are being controlled and regulated by the Arco Zeus regulator, the external regulator, that allows them to effectively recharge this bank in 2.5 hours. I must note though that this bank is very large. So this is a 600 amp hour 48 volt bank, and so for people who use the 12 volts, that's the equivalent of 2,400 or 2,400 amp hours of battery capacity. But they can recharge that fully with the engines in 2.5 hours, running the engines at roughly 1,800 RPM, so not even really high RPMs with the generator mode that the Zeus offers. So in a more realistic scenario, if they run the AC overnight and drain the batteries down to say 40 or 50%, depending on what the outside conditions are, they can fire up the engines for 45 minutes in the morning, make some hot water, recharge the bank up to an acceptable level, probably be up in the 75–80% range, but then they've made hot water, shut them down, let solar take over, and be back up at that 100% range sometime by 4 p.m. and just stay there until 5 or 6 until they shut things down.
Or 10 a.m.
Or possibly sooner, yeah.
Yeah, I
or,
was gonna
or
say
very
or
likely
10
a
a.m.
lot sooner, right? We're assuming cloudy conditions here.
And
so, yeah.
I was going to say, and
Yeah, feel free to add.
this will be my shameless plug, but this was also part of the reason why we started working with the yacht riggers in the first place, is that when Stacy and I knew we were going to go with the Leopard 50, we started talking to different aftermarket providers. And for us, we come out of the tech space, we didn't want what everybody else had done. We wanted a partner in this that actually would help us, hey, let's design a boat together which sort of meets the needs, and not that anything's kind of future-proof, but actually we knew we didn't want a generator. We just felt that it's old technology and there's enough new things. Now we didn't know exactly what the system was going to look like, and we spent a lot of time talking about, hey, what are the different options? How do we go about doing this? And then, it turned out with Arco and the Zeus regulators that good timing
was perfect.
right? Timing was perfect to be able to have something like that. But I think for the average person, as you start to think about who you're going to work with, find the right provider that you can really have those conversations with to make sure you end up with what you want and not just what that aftermarket provider does for everybody. And for those of you that want to do more unique things, find the company or the firm that you can work with that'll do that. And for those of you that maybe are less interested, then there's plenty of folks
There's
out
a provider
there.
for everybody.
Right. And it's not a one-size-fits-all, but find the people that you're going to be comfortable working with to be able to, create a boat that's going to, meet your needs as you get out on the water.
Thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If it has been helpful for you at all, if you're enjoying this content on any level, please like, comment, and subscribe. That really helps a brand new little baby channel like ours start to grow. Check the link in the description below for all kinds of things and tools and parts that the yacht rigger likes to use around the yard whenever they're working on our boats that keep our dreams afloat while we're out there having our adventures. And I will see you guys on the next episode of the On Deck channel. Sailor Smurf out.